welcome to the stream. Another stream with me, the philosopher, and
Jack. What's up, everybody? Hey.
hey, happy Saturday
Happy
night.
Saturday. Hopefully our audio is working all right.
Or Sunday morning.
Yes.
Yeah, let us know if, you can't hear our audio.
Last time there was a settings issue. I was like, what?
Oh, there was with your audio?
Well, no. There wasn't a problem. I'm sorry. The time before that, remember we went to celebrate with everybody. Then we turned out that the wrong connection was. We're like,
Oh, hey Robert.
What's up, Robert?
Welcome
Thanks
back.
for the super sticker.
Hello.
What's up? Good to see you.
I want to see you.
Hey, how's it going? Aussie
Hey.
expat.
Oh, he says,
I wonder, are you actually in Australia? That'd be crazy.
Oh.
What's up? 7-Eleven is an inside job. I'll take that any day. So
it is an inside job.
Left.
You only work inside. That's a great point.
That's true. I guess unless you take out the trash at 7-Eleven, I guess that's possible.
That's true.
But yeah. Oh, hey, what's up?
Welcome.
So more people coming in. So 223 DMR, good round.
223.
What's up from Missouri?
Hello.
Oh, hey, what's up, Robert from Lakeland? How's it going? Howdy, what's up,
fellow
Tom?
Florida man?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Florida man.
Oh, hence
What's up,
expat
Tom?
from Aussie guy.
He's got that new Russian filter.
Oh, that's Russian? I thought that was Chinese.
Chinese.
Oh, okay.
Well, it looks Chinese, right?
Hey,
But,
howdy.
Yeah, it's a filter that obviously was put up by some company in Russia, I guess, like that.
Oh.
So, from
that.
Las Vegas. Well, he's from Las Vegas. Oh, Pensacola,
Vegas.
John coming in. What's up?
Cool.
Yeah, it looks like we got people from all over coming in.
Wow, Vegas, huh? Makes
What's
me
up,
think
Sonny?
of the Reno reset next week.
Ooh,
And I want
that's
to go.
true.
Anyone going to
Yeah, is
the
anybody going to
Reno
that?
reset? Some of you Vegas people.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I'm not
If
gonna
you're
lie.
near, there's the LP Mises Caucus Bash. That's on Friday night or something. Look it up. And Ron Paul's gonna be there, Maj Toure, Spike Cohen, Dave Smith, all these people. I want to go. Tom Woods.
I'm pretty. I'm gonna. Let's be real. I'm gonna be jealous of everybody who's at that bash in Reno, Nevada forever. I'm just gonna always look back and be like,
and look at all the pictures.
Why didn't I go? Why didn't I attend? There's reasons why, but I'm gonna always regret it. So because it's gonna be amazing. They got all kinds of cool people, as you said. Ron Paul's gonna be there. Maj Toure's gonna be there. Subi's gonna be there. Tom Wood's gonna be there. Michael Heiss gonna be there, obviously.
Yeah, you better be there.
Dave Smith will be there. I'm trying to imagine the picture that they drew with the headliner. Scott Horton's gonna be there.
Yes.
Edward Snowden will be at the LP event itself. So Edward Snowden will be Skyping in or whatever.
Cool.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. So if you're going,
what's up, Pamela?
Fun.
What's up from Texas? There we go. Wow.
Welcome.
We got the entire US covered from California all the way over. Look at that. Maine. Wow. Okay. Maine's that's a rare gem. So that's that's pretty crazy. It's really wild that we could just stream and it's literally, what's up, everybody from all over the freaking US, maybe even world. If the guy from Australia is from Australia. So
yes, that is true.
That is so true.
So today we are going to be covering this very interesting article that was written several years ago. And also, just so you know, we are actually over 90% funded on our Voluntarious Origin 6 campaign. This is going to be a unique comic campaign if you haven't heard about it already. But this one will actually result in a trade paperback with the Origins 1 through 6 series. And of course, the creation of the new 6th issue. So I'm really excited. We're almost fully funded. So, if you want to help us out, take a look, check out the perks that we have. I'm going to be cosplaying as a dude. His name's Lumbertarian.
Right. Gender bender.
There you go. You can see that's what he looks like. An ANCAP lumberjack man. So anyway, I got my outfit on lock. I'm really excited. So check that out. And you can see some previews of the comic.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for for supporting so far, everyone who's been a part of it. So it's just kind of incredible to me. This is probably the fastest funding I think I've ever had ever. We have still 40 days left. And literally at 94%. So that's pretty crazy. So it's pretty awesome that so many people jumped in so early. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thanks for making it awesome. So we're almost there. We just a little bit more. But in the meantime, we are gonna have some fun. And both of us actually were really wanting to get more into talking about I guess you could say different elements of what's going on in the world, addressing comments and like common status things that are written in the threads to like articles and studies and all kinds of stuff like that. Like we were like, we should talk more about, some specific things and share that stuff. So the thing that we have that's kind of interesting right now that we want to talk about is a study that was done in 2020. And let me pop it over here. Oh,
2020.
Yeah.
The year where the Great Reset was started.
That's
kidding.
True.
It was enacted.
In a sense, yes. So this is an interesting article. This is an article, or I should say study, that was made in 2020, or at least published in 2020, late 2020, I think in November specifically.
Can I read it?
Yeah.
Tell me what to read.
This.
Okay, I can read this. Okay. So, evaluating the scale, growth, and origins of right-wing echo chambers on YouTube.
Right. So at first you might be thinking like, okay, I see this title on the video. And it might be like, wait, why would you say you're a right-wing echo chamber, right? Like, where does that come from? What's going on? So the point of that little bit of a clickbaity title is to actually share with you guys how this literal group of research scientists, including Ivy League researchers and people like all different types of departments, labeling us as right wing.
Yeah, you can see it's University of Pennsylvania, Harvard University. You have Fox School of Business in Philadelphia. Computer science from Colorado.
Right.
That's
I remember UPenn, Harvard, or Ivy League
Microsoft
places.
Research from New York.
Colorado Boulder. That's a globally ranked institution.
Yeah.
These are some pretty.
That's really
heavy
interesting.
hitters.
Microsoft Research,
right?
A technological corporation. Why are they interested in right-wing echo chambers? Like,
right.
Why aren't they doing Microsoft Research on like cloud technology and infrastructure and AI? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Why is it political?
It's really interesting. So these group of researchers from a bunch of different, in terms of mainstream norms, highly accredited, highly esteemed institutions came together to analyze
academia, the highest of academia.
Right, the highest levels of academia came together to look at us YouTubers, and they decided that they were going to figure out why so many people on YouTube went into what they called right-wing echo chambers.
Wow.
So I think you're already getting a sense that maybe they don't understand what terms they use when they label. So we're gonna look into that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So we're gonna read a bit of the study. We're not gonna read everything because there's obviously lots of stuff that gets super technical and can just get dry. We're gonna just try to focus on kind of the background, like what they were looking into, just for fun,
and the point.
Right, and
like
the main
big
point
picture
of what they were
reason
trying to
of
do.
why they spent this time and money actually researching this and digging into all these different groups.
Right. It's really interesting. So just a little background even before this, though, before we even get to this, just mind you that before this type of research was being done, there had already been a bit of attacks on people through mass censorship. Remember the 800 or so different pages or people that were removed off Facebook and stuff like that. Right. There was like a multi-platform purge.
Anti-media, Kerry Walter.
Right.
Yeah.
But, past 2016, when they're like, oh my gosh, after Zuckerberg and others had been called into Congress, like, you need to do something about this, right?
Right.
And so
that whole like political theater,
right.
just spreads and circuses, really.
It's crazy. I mean, they were just sitting there like, oh, how come people are allowed to speak freely on your platforms? You need to censor them. So, there was some precursor stuff to this, but eventually...
That was the beginning of what you would say was this idea of misinformation.
Right.
We must stop the spread of dangerous misinformation. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is the precursor to when, they started to actually put together those labels and those fact checkers and whatever. Right. So again, this is kind of the research and stuff like that I think was a part of synthesizing what it is that they wanted to like label and who they wanted to throttle. Mm-hmm. And so, as you can imagine, we were one of those targets. So it says right here, although it is understudied relative to other social media platforms, YouTube is arguably the largest, most engaging online media consumption platform in the world. Recently, YouTube's outside influence has sparked concerns that its recommendation algorithm systematically directs users to radical right-wing content. Oh my gosh.
Wait, can we just pause here?
Yes.
That is so interesting because YouTube is actually known for the complete opposite. It's actually I mean, even at that time, it was directing people more to like mainstream news,
right?
You know, suppressing like more individual actual YouTubers and pointing people to like the, narratives that were approved of in corporate media that had their own YouTube channels. So
exactly,
it just seems like so disconnected from the actual reality of what was going on with YouTube.
I mean, I completely agree. You know, I was on that platform all the time, obviously doing all types of social media management, stuff like that. And at that point, most of the major corporate buy-ins had already been done. You know, how, you know, like ABC, NBC, CNN, they all had basically paid YouTube a lot of money to get prime time real estate and to be like service first. They basically tried to buy back their influence.
And like now they're on the trending page. Like now you see news and it's all just like you turn on the TV again.
Exactly. YouTube went
back
from
to
being
television.
Exactly.
And not YouTube like we liked. It's like, okay, YouTube is about individual content creators and anyone and everyone, their mom can just make a video, you know, and get big. It's not about like corporate media, corporate press with like big donors and big backers, you know, and millions and billions of dollars behind them.
Exactly. It went from YouTube is the place where anybody can get viral fame for just doing cool stuff to becoming a co-opted cable legacy media network that serviced only, you know, the top news stations that, you know, already existed in cable media first and suppressed everybody else. So really funny of them to frame it like that. But all right, so it says here we investigate these concerns with large scale longitudinal data of individuals browsing behavior spanning January 2016 through December 2019. Consistent with previous work, we find that political news content accounts for a relatively small fraction, 11% of consumption on YouTube, but is dominated by mainstream and largely centrist sources. So at least they admitted there that YouTube's actual overall overarching viewership was still the mainstream whatever centrist thing they label. So users in this community show higher engagement and greater stickiness than users who consume any other category content. Moreover, YouTube accounts for an increasing fraction of these users' overall online news consumption. Finally, while the size, intensity, and growth of this echo chamber presents real concerns, we find no evidence that they are caused by YouTube recommendations. Well, that's nice. A way to say that people actually like the content that they're clicking on.
You're right. That was like a really long-winded way to just say that, okay, individuals are actually self-directedly choosing to go to this certain kinds of content.
Right. It's not a matter of like, oh, YouTube's like, go watch these people. It's literally.
But they also before that already kind of give credence to that idea, though.
Right.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. And again, a part of this research for them was basically trying to like ultimately suggest to YouTube, okay, it's not your algorithm, so maybe we got to do something else to throttle these people. We got to do something else to shut them down, because it's not that your algorithm's off. It's like, oh, these people are actually searching for this and going down this rabbit hole.
It makes me wonder, like, who funded this research and why?
Well, we could take a look at the funding. It should be listed at the bottom.
That'd be a fun thing to explore after. All right, let's
and just real quick, thank you again, Dragon Man.
Thanks, Dragon Man.
Sometimes what is right way was just normal decades ago. Just some thoughts from an old geezer. I mean, certainly now, obviously, like whatever. I mean, it's so absurd. What
should we start with that? Maybe list definitions of what right wing traditionally means.
I would say probably not, just because at least at this point we're just focusing on the nature of the study and how they label it. So we could talk about it after, though, like if comparative. But so the internet has fundamentally altered the production and consumption of political news content. On the production side, it has dramatically reduced the barriers to entry for would-be publishers of news, leading to proliferation of small and often unreliable sources of information.
Oh, there you go. There's that elitism just peeking out, right?
Right.
Only those who can be, the publishers, like the only approved publishers can be the one that can be correct.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. How dare you not have a barrier to entry on your publishing abilities? All right, so on the consumption side, search and recommendation engines make even marginal actors easily discoverable, allowing them to build large, highly engaged audiences at a low cost. Ooh.
So jealous.
Jelly. And the sheer scale of online platforms, Facebook and YouTube, each have more than 2 billion active users per month. tends to amplify the effect of any flaws in their algorithmic design or content moderation policies. As political polarization rises and trust in traditional sources of authority declines, woo!
I know,
Concerns,
right?
yay! Concerns have naturally risen regarding the presence.
This is like the old guard speaking.
It
They're
is
like, oh no.
they're not paying attention to us anymore.
They're not trusting our lives
Boo.
anymore. Yeah.
And impact the high preponderance of the conspiratorial content on social media platforms that, while not clearly in violation of platform rules, may nonetheless have corrosive or radicalizing effects on users.
Wow.
Oh no, it's corrosive. How dare you?
First of all, that's very subjective. There's nothing specific there, right? It's meant to just cause fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Like, that's all it is, right? So let's see if they actually expand on how exactly is it actually corrosive, beyond just a buzzword of like, oh no, it's radicalizing, without even saying what that even means. Is that necessarily labels. Good or bad? It's just labels.
Just labels.
Just negative
specific.
Labels.
Just negative labels, exactly. Although research and online misinformation has to date focused mostly on Facebook and Twitter, roughly 23 million Americans rely on YouTube as a source of news, a number that is comparable with the corresponding Twitter audience. And is growing both in size and engagement. Moreover, recent work has identified a large number of YouTube channels, mostly operated by individual people or small organizations that produce large amounts of extreme right-wing and less frequently left-wing content. The large followings of some of these channels have prompted the gotta scroll
up. That
up.
is not true. There's so much quote left-wing content.
Yeah, they never saw Vosh apparently. Okay.
Yeah.
Hypothesis that YouTube itself is driving traffic to them via its recommendation engine. Yeah.
There's Vice. There's all kinds of Young Turks. What are they talking about? There's so many leftist content. What?
It's so insane. These people. All right.
Yeah,
so for example, it has been reported that starting from factual videos about the flu word I'm not going to say just for the algorithms, the recommended system can drive users toward the word conspiracy videos. That word that
wow, are you serious? We still can't say that after 3 years.
We could, but I'm just trying to get this to reach people so you could read it. It won't pick that up at least. However, systematic evidence for these claims are elusive. On a platform with almost 2 billion users, it is possible to find examples of almost any type of behavior. Hence, anecdotes do not on their own indicate systematic problems. Meanwhile, the few studies that have examined this question have reached conflicting conclusions, with some finding evidence of radicalization, others finding the opposite. These disagreements arise from methodological differences that make the results hard to compare. For example, there's a reference that we're not going to look at. There's one other example, potential biases, then recommended by simulated logged out users, whereas another reference reconstructs user histories from scraped comments. So again, they're just talking about here, we're going to skip past that, but they're just talking about how, different researchers and ideas about, what is being radicalized from that. So it says here we introduce a unique data set comprising a large, that N means number of the sample size, 309,813 representative sample of the U.S. population and their online browsing histories, both on and off the YouTube platform, spanning 4 years from January 2016 to 2019.
That's a lot of data. I'm just encapsulate for yourself, right?
Right.
They studied over 309,000 people and their online browsing histories for 4 years.
Right. So they looked through a lot.
That is so much to look through.
It is. And you're going to find it to be quite interesting and fun. So nonetheless, the fraction of YouTube users strongly engaged in far-right channels has increased over the last 4 years, where consumers of far-right channels tend to show a more extreme engagement pattern on YouTube compared to individuals whose majority of consumption is from channels with other political orientations. Oh no. The pathways.
What does that mean?
Exactly. It's like, it's basically like, okay, there's more engagement with people on what they label as right wing as opposed to centrist to left wing channels. Like people seem to be more like hardcore.
Oh, that's
fans
what they're trying to say.
And,
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So within sessions of consecutive video viewership, we see no trend toward more extreme content, indicating that consumption of this content is determined more by user preferences than by recommendation. So that's what they're saying before. Again, right. People are choosing to click through and learn more and more and go further, as opposed to YouTube's like, hey,
that sounds weird. I'm pretty sure that's the point of YouTube, that you get to self-direct what you want to look at.
Right. So just real quick here, they say our data is coming mainly from Nielsen's nationally representative desktop web panel. So Nielsen is a big, you could say, media survey company. They're very, you could say prolific with the types of research and surveys. It's a very big company. So it spanned 2016, December 2019. They record their individual visits to specific URLs. That's the websites. They use the subset of the panelists who have at least one recorded YouTube page view. So they said parsing the recorded URLs, we found a total of 21,385,962 watch video page views. So, you know, I'm not going to go through all deals because it can get very dry, but basically they just looked at a bunch of people that was
or fascinating, depending who you are.
Oh, well, that's true. It is fascinating. It's just it would get really, you know, deep into the
weeds.
The weeds of all the numbers and the methodology.
We'll try to stick high level because how many pages is this? Like
there's a lot of pages in this research, so we want to stick to the
we're doing our best to summarize it for you.
So, you know, they attached into the YouTube API for some of this research. So they also managed to mention here, they said for channels such as InfoWars, which was terminated for violating YouTube's community standards, none of their previously uploaded videos
communist
are available.
guidelines? Anyway, sorry.
Right.
I mean, not sorry. None of their previous.
Exactly. So there's issues in their data collection because they can't.
So ones that are terminated, they don't actually have data. So
they lost some data on those who were, you know, out there, sadly.
And actually the most very influential
Rest in peace. So. AJ, you are loved, but
he's alive. Stop.
He's alive. Stop. Well, I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, I love that joke that people try to say about him that he was
that he was like killed off and now he's just like a psyop.
Oh no, he replaced the one other guy who Hicks, Bill Hicks. Yeah, that joke that like, oh, he's really Bill Hicks. Oh, he's not, but it's just funny.
I never heard of that. That's funny.
All right, so we're just gonna skip down to the fun part. So of course, what's
the fun part? Their assertions, basically.
The fun part is getting to see what they labeled in their channel categories. Yes. So so as you can see here, okay, there we go. I'm going to scroll on up real quick. So they had far left as a category, right? Wow. So there's a list of channels, and there's a bunch of different channels. They looked through some of the biggest ones that really, I guess you can say, really are representative of what people look at. I don't know many of these, obviously, because it's not my zone. Yeah. There's some, of course, like
Vice,
the Young Turks.
Right, the Young Turks. Like
Planned Parenthood, I guess they considered far left. Philosophy 2.
Okay.
Vice and stuff like that. So in that, to some extent,
AOC's on there.
Oh yeah, AOC.
Far left. I mean, I guess that's true.
ACLU is listed as far left. I think that's kind of interesting.
Huh. And Dark Matter 2525.
That's interesting too. Dark Matter is because he's more just like atheist.
He's more apolitical
left,
too.
Right.
He's more focused on religion and the philosophy behind that. Not really like.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I could see Young Turks making sense. Vice making sense.
Hey, now, before we go into this, do they define anywhere what they mean by far left? Because whenever anyone starts labeling things and grouping people together, I'm like, hey, how do you define it? Perfect.
Yeah, there you go. So Appendix 1, label aggregation. We consider a majority voting labels provided by different references. If two labels are available, we consider the label toward more extreme end, toward more extreme end. For example, a video that with labels right and center right will be in the right bucket. So far right, any channel labeled as alt-right, IDW, MRA, which is men rights activists, conspiracy.
Wow, men's rights activists?
Yeah. Religious conservative, right. Yeah, you're far right if you think dudes have rights.
Men should have rights and should be careful when they sign a contract, get into a marriage state contract with a woman. Okay,
interesting.
What? That's weird.
So anything, so super
all right, you can see the bias.
Right. Any channel with labels right or right center, an ideology partisan right, or ideology
libertarian. So that's how we got in there. Libertarians. Huh? Okay.
Libertarian. You're right now. Apparently being libertarian makes you right.
Wanting individual liberty is right wing. Okay.
Yeah, interesting. Center, any channel with label center from both their references. And then left, any channel with ideology partisan left. I mean, they just keep saying left. It's like a tautology. Far left, any channel with ideology, social justice, socialist, revolutionary socialist, anti-theist,
this is not a definition.
Anti-white.
I'm sorry. It's okay. It does tell you how they labeled.
Yeah.
But in the end, I would love to know, like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, to be far right. Why is that a problem? Why does it have a negative connotation like they're pushing for?
Yeah, and also it's just like there's just stuff that doesn't necessarily combine. Like anti-theist doesn't make you far left.
Yeah, that's really weird.
That's kind of outside the political side.
Just like you're anti-theist or saying anti-white.
Right.
What is your racial prejudices or your religious prejudices?
Well, I could say being tied to CRT. anti-white potentially, but it's kind of an interesting way they framed it.
Yeah, the anti-theist is interesting too, because that is not in and of itself political, right?
Mhm.
Like, you can be a libertarian and an anti-theist. What?
Oh, 7-Eleven says Dark Matter said he's a socialist, or at least lefty. So okay, I mean, that's interesting, because I don't know because I haven't watched every video of his. I've watched a number, but I thought most of his content.
But that's
was
on his show. They're saying here, does the
Right.
channel have any sort of labels? So for Dark Matter 2525, he would, because he was listed in the far left, he would be considered an anti-theist.
Right. He's just for that label.
For his channel specifically. So that's really interesting.
Right. Yeah.
I don't agree
I think
with
that their categorizations don't exactly fit the real political analysis of what makes left, right, and all that stuff. But
yeah.
So
will we get to that at the end then?
We'll talk. Yeah, we can talk about it. Of course, we can talk about it.
I love that.
No, actually, they're going to cut us just before, right? When we're about to do it, then that's when we get perma banned, and then that's it. It's over. Anyway, no. So yeah. So left.
Good joke.
Good joke.
Good joke, Jack.
Good joke.
I ref for you.
You give me go ref.
All right. So.
So all right. So just left. I mean, there's some shows here that I know of, at least like the Jimmy Dore show. Okay, we have HuffPost. I mean, I would say HuffPost close to the far left these days. Vice News. I mean, I don't. Why did Vice versus Vice News?
Okay, there's literally in far left Vice Land.
Right.
It's like what?
They're like everything that's same. Vice. Vice. Yeah. MSNBC. That should be far left. Vox probably. I mean, Democracy Now, I think that's far left for sure. I don't see why that would just be left. So Yahoo News is counted left. That's interesting.
Wow, that's so interesting. Probably. I thought Yahoo News is supposed to be more centrist, but yeah, I guess okay.
Yeah, Real Time with Bill Mayer. I mean, I would say Vox even far left. Although I would say with his, being against the lockdown, shutdown stuff, they might reassociate where Bill fits. Like you're far right now.
Same with Jimmy Dore. Yeah. Jimmy Dore has also spoken out.
That's true.
Then. Yeah, and also on the mask mandate madness and the vaccine, he started questioning it. Actually.
Right. So they're probably going to put Jimmy now in far right if they redid this. So interesting. So Cosmopolitan. I mean, honestly, Cosmopolitan's probably just communist at this point. So I don't even know. All right. So how about center? Ooh, what's just center? You're just center. There's nothing special here. You're just right in the center of everything. So Foundation for Individual Rights and Education, FIRE, they're center. I mean, it's kind of funny because I think
they're literally, isn't that Libertarian Foundation for Individual Rights? They technically
are. I mean, sure, they're nonpartisan as a not-for-profit, but they're definitely like libertarian in terms of their level of First Amendment protection promotion. So that's weird.
That's interesting. Oh, look, I just want to say, Justin. Oh, thanks, Justin.
Oh, thanks, Justin.
He says it's very Skinnerian.
Yeah. I was about to say Leonard Skinner.
Skinner.
Yeah, the psychologist Skinner. Yeah.
Okay. Operant conditioning, reinforcement schedules, and stimulated dopamine release in the nucleus. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. The way that they're promoting these labels and they're doing their labels is to get people to believe they're reinforcing their labels on you. Exactly.
Right. Exactly. That's true.
So, because Skinner was a behaviorist. So let's see. I don't know. I mean, there's some of the stuff. Philip DeFranco Center. I don't know. That doesn't seem right to me.
That is really
Larry King is center. I don't know. I would say he's more little left.
Joe Rogan University.
Joe Rogan University fan channel.
What fan channel? Okay, that's so
that
specific.
One.
There's all kinds of
TEDx
weird,
talks?
random ones here.
I know, right? I don't know. I'm a little. Some of this stuff is
seems so strange.
CBS is far left. Forget this. That's definitely not right. You got the wrong category. Al Jazeera English. Again, at least the main thing you can take out of this is that anonymous official. I don't know. Is that really center? That was more. I don't know. Left libertarian, but Corbett Report. No, that's if they're talking about the TV show Corbett Report. That's definitely like far left. Definitely.
Russia Today.
Especially after his dance.
That's interesting. They have Russia Today, like America.
RT America. Yeah. I guarantee they won't say that again,
Yeah,
Russia Today. Yeah.
Isn't that a Russian?
Yeah, they're going to be like, no, this is far right.
Eric Weinstein.
Eric Weinstein's definitely not going to stand that after his commentary on everything with, the lockdown, shutdown, other stuff.
Got it.
All right. So now we're getting to the part that we get to join in at. So this is now the part that's right. So let me get this a little more centered.
Wow.
So this is where, oh, look at that in the middle of the right.
Hey, the
philosopher. Oh, look at that. So yeah, I also like showing this.
Hey, Tom Woods TV, John Stossel. There you go.
So Tom Woods TV,
Russia Insider. Okay.
John's, yeah. So also
Peter Schiff,
Shane Killian, Learn Liberty. So this is kind of an interesting subset because it's like this actually shows you who was a part of actually fostering, bless me, the media culture at this time, right? So while this list, their labels may not be all that great, it is showing from a huge representative sample of the kind of content people are watching and the kind of big like influential channels, right? Yeah. So all the stuff they are showing is the influential channels. These are the channels that are really, reaching people and are, whatever, pilling them one way or the other as they're, framing it. But this is the people who are doing stuff.
All of the ones they're listing.
So right. So all the stuff they're listing here are channels that they believe in their metrics are a big part of the watch and the views and the engagement.
Oh, so, where did they say that? I thought this was just like, okay, so this is not everyone they saw that was in like the search history over 4 years for people. This is a part of the search history. Yes, this is. I'm saying this is not all of them. This is just the top ones.
Yeah, these are the top. Metric. Yes, these are the top channels that are actually a part of the direction that they're saying, where they go into the far right. So these are the channels that they are saying, oh, these are the ones that people really watch and engage with. And if you look at it, this is not hard to figure out because in this zone that you're looking at,
Wedler, Ron Paul Liberty Report.
You're looking at the people that you know, right? So now this is more familiar, okay?
Right.
So Tom it's like, Woods, okay, you're seeing Ron Paul Liberty Report, you're seeing Carrie Wedler, One News America,
Freedom Tunes,
right? Freedom Tunes, Mercatus Center, Learn Liberty, Real Coffee with Scott Adams, Epic Times, Project Veritas.
They have the NRA on there.
Yeah,
National Rifle Association.
Yeah, put the NRA all the way back.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what?
They're more centrist.
The Asian capitalists made it too.
Oh,
which the Asian capitalists are one of your supporters, which is kind of funny.
That's true. Yeah.
So, Daily Signal, Federalist Society. I think if you're watching this with us, you probably are recognizing a lot more of these groupings of shows and organizations. Judicial Watch. I'm looking for anything else that's interesting. That's Peter Schiff, right? Yep. So it's some of these obviously are more conservative, at least maybe Conservative Citizen.
Oh,
might
that
be
guy
right.
T. Hey.
Right, that guy T might actually
somewhat
fall in there because he did go more conservative before he kind of disappeared.
Yeah,
Adam
but at
Kokesh,
the time he was making libertarian content.
So. Right. So they put Adam Kokesh in here, which definitely is not right at all, not right wing or whatever. Although now he's just
wait. But
lost it.
None of these people are right wing then.
Well, I think that some of these people would fall into the right. I think some of the labels.
So now you have to get into
true.
Definitions.
Right.
So I feel like before we proceed, we need to get into the definitions of what do you mean by right?
Good. So to me, someone who is right wing in terms of an actual appropriate political label is someone who considers themselves a social and economic conservative. They would either more likely identify as being Republican, or at least you would say that they fall into the grouping of promoting traditionalist values as a core social front, which would be monogamy in the family, and not promoting promiscuity, possible crossover to some of evangelical Christian right kind of stuff. Definitely, at least in rhetoric, having some type of affinity for gun rights. And some type of affinity for, I guess you could say, the government in some way, because a lot of people who would be properly labeled in right would still say, oh, we need the government to have a strong military,
defense,
right, police, that kind of thing.
Courts, police,
right.
Yeah, right.
So there's definitely some that fall into that as being conservative and truly
oh, okay.
I think right-wing news, definitely.
But so based on what you
News
said,
Network, definitely conservative Republican kind of arena. Yeah.
Based on what you said, then libertarian doesn't really fit into that, because
not at all.
Libertarianism is not really part of that culture. You can have that culture and still be libertarian or not.
Right. But I would say even deeper than that is that if you're libertarian, your prioritization is property rights over government managing social norms. So I would say that that's probably that key difference between the libertarian and conservative or Republican conservative would be that the libertarian could have conservative values, but they don't want government to enforce it. Whereas the conservative Republican arena, the right-wing arena, says, oh, the government should have laws that enforce a social norm that I want. That's definitely a big defining difference.
So then in that case, where could you put libertarianism? Is it?
It would not be in the spectrum.
You wouldn't even label it as left or right.
Exactly. It'd be outside the spectrum. That's the whole point. Is like
I see.
The mainstream spectrum that they're trying to fit this in doesn't fit when, like the PCM compass, right? It's not just left and right. It's also authoritarian to, liberty or, freedom or anti-authoritarian.
Right.
So this seems a little bit more like, binary. You have left or right, but it's, you could have social values, but yet still not want the state to enforce it.
Got it.
So that's why it's just such a not, good labeling metric that they're using here.
Okay, so you're saying left and right is really specifically about spectrums of statism, of people who want government, right?
Definitely. I mean, yeah. And when you're talking about a mainstream left-right label, you're talking about the political mainstream left-right. Like basically you're Democrat to Republican, progressive versus conservative, but tied to the statist realm. And that's what makes it kind of unique is that in both categories, you're looking at people who still want the government to enforce their social values in some capacity. Whereas someone who's libertarian is like, I may have social values that, you're really ardent about, but you don't want the government enforcing it. You're not like, the government needs to mandate, what everybody should do or ban, consensual activity, right? Like as someone who's like an old school conservative, like 90s conservative would be like, weed should be banned. You know what I mean? That's the typical Republican evangelical position of the mid 90s. That's not, controversial. They would want
and a lot of these libertarians in that case would not be right by that definition.
Right.
Like John Stossel, he's okay with myself. Like we want like people to have the choice and even down to drugs.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the reason I point that out is just like we were looking at the labels before, it seems like they're trying to kind of like group things together that shouldn't actually be grouped together in order to, in my opinion, more insidiously discount the libertarian movement.
Yeah, definitely.
To make it seem like, oh, well, all libertarians, they're just right wing. Ooh, spooky. Instead of realizing that actually this idea of libertarianism versus authoritarianism, individuals versus the collective, government, that's actually not related to left versus right. And that's why when you look at like a political spectrum, like the political compass, you see that left and right is on the x-axis, but the y-axis is totally different. It's not part of the left-right at all. And that's where you actually have libertarian versus statism.
Yes.
So this is very dishonest, in my opinion.
Yes,
how
it's too
grouping
narrow,
these
too
people
narrow.
together.
It's
like intentionally guilty by association,
Right.
Like if they can spook you out about this idea of right wing,
Yeah.
like, oh, Alex Jones, oh, he's so scary.
Scotty.
He has a tinfoil hat and he says the frogs are gay. Anyway, like he's like now they can group anyone as right wing and be like, oh, okay, now you have this association that right wing is bad. Like Alex Jones bad. So anyone that gets labeled by these authority figures in the corporate press, if you're not really thinking, you'll just like, oh yeah, okay, now also libertarians are just bad because they're right wing. So that's what I see here. That's very insidious in this very academic article with lots of numbers and methodology. And oh my God, like 30 pages.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's real. And this is also a good example of like methodological flaws. It's like, it doesn't matter how good you are with statistics and like trying to come up with a way to like measure how long someone has like looked at a page, then how many pages, further they went, like how you're going to like judge that type of, moving through the iterations through time through different types of channels. If your input and your labeling's wrong, right?
Right.
If
your assertions are wrong.
With how
your
you're framing
premises
it,
are wrong.
Doesn't matter how good you are at the statistics.
Right.
If your framing and methodology in terms of, your labeling categorization is off, right? So okay, real smart guys over at UPenn and Harvard, but they still have no idea how the political spectrum works in terms of the diversity of views and, authoritarian versus anti-authoritarian views and how that doesn't exactly line up with what they're trying to group and write. So,
now let's go to the far right. That's
the
fun.
far right.
Let's see who they labeled as far right. So on that note, now that we have it cleared, thank you.
This gets even more
for
hilarious.
The definitions.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really funny of who's far right. Like who would you like associate that with?
Look at this.
Like,
as you know, I don't know if you knew this, but Julie Borowski is a crazy far right extremist.
Julie Borowski is so she's just a far right extremist.
She's this extremist.
Wow. Let's start at the top. Okay. Yeah. I don't know that person. I don't know.
There's gonna be a lot of stuff.
Stick Hexenhammer. I don't get it. You would say he's far right.
I don't know. I'm not familiar.
He seems like anti-theist. Okay, whatever. Keep going.
So, but like they put in, for example, Ben Shapiro and then Stefan Molyneux. And it's like, okay, you could talk about Stefan's turn. You know, most of his work was anarchist.
He was anti-theist.
And he was anti-theist.
So wouldn't he be far left?
Exactly.
And he was an anarchist at this time, like completely like no state, full-on libertarian, principled libertarian. He wouldn't be on this at all. So that's so weird.
He did change, though, to do more Trumpy stuff in 2016 and onward. So if that's all they looked at, they might like confusedly do that. But again, it still doesn't define all his work, right? Stefan definitely is not just pure far right, especially if they're going to label it based on, anti-theist. Well, of course, he's also anti-theist. So we do far left now. It's like, you know. Right. And that's a big difference between Stefan and someone like Ben Shapiro. That's like, worlds apart. In our view, of course, of when you think about the state. So there's, and of course, mixed into this, you're going to have someone like Julie Borowski, but then you're going to probably have like, neo-Nazi channels, something like that in here, even though they're like Julie Borowski. I don't really
know any top of mind.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't even know how to.
Oh, was that Milo Yiannopoulos there?
Milo might be listed here because he was around back then. I mean, Blaze TV listed. Which, Bates, Alaska. I mean,
at least my gosh, look, they have Shoe on Head.
Shoe on Head.
Shoe on Head is a specific Bernie bro. Dude. She loves Bernie Sanders. And she wants there to be like universal basic income and universal health care.
Yeah.
Okay, she loves Bernie Sanders.
That is so crazy that
she's literally center left or just leftist.
Oh, in terms of what she actually is, she's, basically
or far left at this
socially, she's anti like third wave feminist, but she, definitely is, leading toward socialist. Central planning. Socialist kind of area. So that's hilarious that they would put Shoe in far right. That's like, what?
Wow.
So there's a lot of stuff here that I'm not just familiar with. Because again, it's like, for example, like Red Ice TV is definitely more on like, far right for real. Like
Shoe and Skeptic.
That's really
that was when she was dating Skeptic at the time.
Maybe that's why, because Skeptic.
So maybe they grouped her in with it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, it's just so bizarre how they did this categorization. Again, interesting.
You just think about how much money, how much time, all the people involved on this. Mm-hmm. You really got to ask yourself why.
Right. So. All that work just to miscategorize people so badly. I mean, again, it's true that this is a good grouping. It's a representative grouping of different channels that had a big impact on the culture. This is a very, I would say the list that goes up from the, from their far left to the far right lists a lot of channels that actually are really representative of the influencers in the, media world. It's just their categorization is not exactly all that smart.
Yeah. Wow. Jesse Lee Peterson.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jordan Peterson fan channel, far right. Oh my gosh. So
cool. Well, that was really interesting. Anything else you want to cover on that? That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, not in particular in terms of like that stuff. It's just a fun history to go exercise. Over,
Yeah, history-wise, it was fun. Another standpoint for me that I enjoyed was just methodology-wise. Like when you read papers like that, like I think it's really important to look at the methodology, look at how they label things. That's so important, like definitions, right? And see like what is their purpose in actually doing all this? Like who are the people involved and why is this a focus for them? So yeah, that was fun. Thanks for hanging out with us and reading that article.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I'll just check real quick. Was there any new support? Oh, okay. So I'll just check real quick if there's any support. So again, don't forget, that coming up is, I mean, I would take a shot for this, but coming up within, I guess it is a bit of a time, so 40 days left. So coming up within 40 days, we'll end the campaign. But right now, as of right now, the campaign itself, get back in there. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I'm just like hitting all these buttons. Campaign itself is super close again, super close to being 100% on the next Voluntarious Origins. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to check it out because it's probably one of the coolest comic book series out there right now when you consider how much everything out there from Disney, what they've done to Marvel and DC, just every single show that they've ruined with terrible character development and nothing but gender and sexuality and race swaps, and that's all that their character development is. I mean, it's just such absolute dry nonsense of what they've done to these shows. I mean, they're literally just killing all these different shows. Basically, Disney is stabbing them all to death. So bringing out a new story that actually has something that appreciates individual liberty and doesn't just focus on those stupid superficial characteristics is kind of a cool thing in these
and it's
times.
actually realistic. I mean, it is a fiction, but it's also based on the world we actually live in today. And there's a lot of certain issues will have Easter eggs, things that you could actually look up and research that are real things. So part of the fun, in my opinion, as a fan of this comic, like before I met you or when I met you, that's how I got interested in you with your comic series. And I think part of it that I enjoyed was just like seeing the storyline and seeing like how it just depicted this idea of voluntarism and how like it really is like this last stand against government and encapsulating in a fictional way the very real agenda that we have at play here, which is the agenda for a complete one world government, new world order, where everyone is controlled, taxed, just treated like livestock, but you really don't have freedom anymore in terms of freedom of speech, any sort of individual sovereignty, and you're just more taxed and stamped and used for whatever those in power want. So it's a very real story, and I love it a lot. And another small thing is I was always just didn't like how in superhero movies they just cause so much destruction. So like the people who are supposed to be the good guys, the superheroes, they're going around like destroying property. Apartment buildings will just collapse. I'm like, you're so powerful. Take this bad guy to the middle of the ocean. Why are you doing it in the middle of the suburbs where people are just trying to live? So I actually like in your comic series, the heroes actually care about property rights and don't just like make it seem like the world is just some, playground for superheroes to just destroy like it's nothing. And that destruction is just easy and things rebuild like the next day. Like it's so weird to see, which is a plot hole, to see like a city absolutely destroyed, but then like the next day it's like functioning totally fine and economy's not ruined. No one's starving, like when in reality, like that kind of warfare causes so much destruction, so much death and starvation. So
that reminds me why I liked watching back in the day with the Dragon Ball series and Dragon Ball Z
anime.
The anime, like how they actually would when they fought, they would often go fight somewhere distant from cities.
Yeah, that's
like they'd
true.
be like, let's go fight in the mountains because they knew like if they fought near cities, they would destroy everything. So
and they did. They like destroyed mountains. Like there'd be a hole through a giant mountain. Like they actually had that consistency, that anime. So
right.
Anyways,
and as LS420 says here, mainstream superheroes are just as destructive as Gojira. Exactly. Right. It's like
they're supposed to be the heroes.
In all the different major stories, all they're doing, a lot of these guys just destroying everyone's lives. Like through it, like there's fighting with the bad guys, like destroying all the property and stuff like that. There's like no consideration that it's like whatever, you just whoever, it's a car. We're just gonna use that as a battering, tool now. Just taking your car, no big deal. So
right.
It's really funny to see just how ridiculous that is sometimes with some of these shows, how it becomes just so accustomed to like seeing that over and over again. People just expect it. Like, yeah, of course, they're just going to fight and destroy everybody's property.
Yeah, and they're desensitized to it now, desensitized to property, and that it takes a long time to build things, and destruction is costly and painful.
Right. And on top of that, right, like most of your major shows and a lot of different comic book series or adaptations, they always focus on the state as the savior, or if there's something wrong with the government, it's just, oh, there's a bad apple and it needs to be fixed. Like in The Boys, like The Boys are like, oh, well, the CIA really would be able to do more if there wasn't so much red tape.
Right.
I remember that scene and like be like, oh, okay, that's the CIA narrative here at Amazon.
And the plot is it's a rogue company that's doing really bad things and bribing poor politicians. These poor politicians who they're just trying to go home. They're just trying to go home, guys. They're just trying to feed their families. And then these like big evil corporations, capitalist corporations, just come out of nowhere and bribe them.
Yeah. And money. They show that they're like, okay, there's just some bad politicians and they're the ones working with the, military industrial complex and the boys of the superheroes.
But they're not complicit. They're all just being bribed. Like there's no politician in power that's like actually on the side of the military industrial complex and is corrupt and is elitist in there, and is totally willing to go along with it.
Right. The corporate influence is the bad part. It's, there's no independent incentives, stuff like that. And then the AOC archetype savior. Oh, sorry. Wait.
Spoilers.
I don't know. But I mean, it's
been out a long time.
I think it's been out long enough. I think it's fair game territory, folks. Fair game.
I guess, but it's still a warning. I guess.
Still a warning.
Whatever.
Cover your ears. But the AOC archetype at the end, where it's like a knock on Scientology. With the guy who's like managing other superheroes and giving, like rehabilitating them and stuff like that. So it's that leftist progressive statist central planner, kind of build at the end, which is like that, I guess you could say anti-establishment leftism, where it's like, okay, the central planners need to come in and save you from the evil right-wing or Republican corporate overlords, and they're going to clean up, the bad apples in the CIA, and then they're going to essentially plan your lives good when they're done, So
it was definitely an AOC character because it was a congresswoman. She's like, I'm anti-war.
Oh, they said it was.
She has black hair. Oh, they said it was.
I watched the after the what do you call it? The directors
so they
sit down and stuff. They mentioned that's some
so
of
the director actually verified that it was supposed to AOC look alike.
I watched
so
the Amazon,
it's a congresswoman who's like, oh, we got to defeat the military industrial complex, and she's the one that has these crazy OP powers to just like explode a head.
Right.
So it's very much deifying AOC.
Exactly. So it's really kind of
and the actual far left and the actual like socialists and authoritarians that want to take over. So
exactly right. It's something that I think pervades, especially your streaming services. I mean, the kind of shows and stories that are being promoted, especially when you're talking about like Amazon's originals and Netflix's originals or their adaptations and stuff like that. A lot of times the scripts that they're picking and the updates that they're making are always in that kind of seemingly not really anti-authoritarian, more like anti-establishment, left bent, and central planning mindset, anti-capitalist. I think of like Peacemaker, right? I don't want to spoil for those who haven't seen it, so plug your ears. But even on Peacemaker, they have that like kind of end synthesis that it's like, oh, okay, they need this woman to come in and tell everybody that they're racist and their capitalist ways are so bad, So it's the same old.
There's a bunch of garbage.
There is. It's a fun show. I'm not a hater of the shows. I love The Boys. It's a great show. Really entertaining.
Good actors.
Right. Peacemaker, tons
good
of
directing
fun.
And entertaining, but nonetheless, there's obviously a hidden propaganda. But that's how they sell it. They sell it in a beauty package. Like that's how they do it, right? They get celebrities who you may have known through other ways and admired just for their looks or their acting skills, and they get them to repeat these talking points. Like we saw through 2020 to 2022, suddenly they're all like virologists and say, oh, you got to wear a mask. And that's the only way. Like, that's how they do it. They package lies in pretty packages, right? Like,
exactly.
So I'm not surprised. Yeah. Like, okay, cool. Good entertaining movie. You say that of every single movie that comes out. That's the point. They have all the money to hire good actors and actually make it entertaining. But actually, they're selling you propaganda. So.
And that reminds me, like even the new Batman, right? I was debating people on watching the Batman with Pattinson. Now, this one, maybe fewer people see because it's been out a little bit shorter than the other shows were mentioned.
Yeah, that's really recent. So,
but again, if you don't want to hear Batman spoilers, just stick the fingers in the ears for a quick minute here. But basically,
I feel like there's somebody who's like has yet to take their hands out. They're like, is it okay yet? Oh no, another show that I want to watch. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know, right? So in the Pattinson version of Batman, there was so many different themes about like knocking on, you could say, business and capitalism. Obviously, with Batman himself and his interactions with Catwoman, like everything that she was focused on was about like, oh, I want to like knock down some hedge fund guys, want to come with me to do that. And she like would be like, oh, you don't understand what it's like. You're just, a billionaire, and you don't get my struggle. And it, just this like savior complex with him and her. It like the whole trope was just basically that, Batman is this bad guy for having money, and the savior that needs to come in, of course, is the new mayor. And it's just some bad apples. It's not all cops. It's just some bad apples in the police force that have to be cleaned up because they have mafia connections, right? And at the end, it's, oh, okay, well, now we have the new mayor and everything's all good because we have the right person.
Just reinforcing this lie that that corruption is rooted out quickly. That's such a lie. Yeah. Reality is corruption stays generations and generations. Families secretly passing off power to each other, patting each other's backs. Like, that's totally the opposite. So anyway, all that being said, those are like 4 examples of why I really like comic series or content fictional stuff like the Voluntaries comic series, because it's actually, talking about liberty and is very really talking about the world that we live in and, what we must do in order to actually be free, And it's not trying to lie to you about the nature of reality and make you think like, oh, these people who tax you, who you don't have a choice to fund, who are super corrupt, who, will send your kids to wars overseas or kill people overseas in your name, like that these people really care about you. This is not reinforcing that. And of course, that's also what we believe in the world in general, that the nature of government is such, it's coercion, and that people need to wake up, and wake up, get out of the matrix and stop thinking that people who coerce you really care about you. It is not true, and it's completely insane to think that.
Right. I mean, it's kind of interesting, that trope there of, coercion versus consent and rule. And I think that was even one of the themes in a show that we had watched not so long ago, Jupiter's Legacy.
Right.
What did you think about that?
Jupiter's well, let's see. Going back, because, I mean, they were like, I don't remember much, actually. I think I fell asleep for some of it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because in Jupiter's Legacy, there was this, big rift between like the superheroes wanting to be like, who are the old school ones, like, we don't rule as superheroes. We don't want to intervene with people. The government is supposed to rule, not everybody else. And then the contention later was about other superheroes who want to like actually engage in politics, and there's a big rift about that. But the writer of the show is like an actual about socialist, so the theme, of course, is not exactly trying to get people to want free markets.
Yeah, it's anti-capitalist, of course.
Yeah, pretty typical.
Anti-property rights. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody,
check
for
out
hanging
the comic and check out the perks we have. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hope you found that article that we read through interesting, and really shows you, right, just the origins of how they're really trying to have this idea that this thing called misinformation can be decided by a central agency, that truth can be dictated by the state, and that it needs to be, because they want to make you all scared about this notion of, oh, disinformation, while trying to fool you into thinking that they themselves cannot be purveyors of disinformation. So hopefully it was fun. And stay vigilant out there, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us, and hope you have the rest of a good Saturday night.
Take care, everybody. See you later.
Bye, everybody.